Now, let's get analysis. We are now joined via Zoom by Ndzali Mathebula, lecturer in the Department of International Relations from the University of Johannesburg. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. Of course, this has been deemed a historic moment. It's a historic case. Talk to us about what it all means, particularly for Donald Trump.
Well, this being an indictment, a court document that is issued by a jury, a grand jury, that actually indicates how strong the case is. But at the same time, it has such political implications for the president. Ones that actually work in both ways, where it can win him votes in the Republican primary, but at the same time might actually deteriorate his chances in a national election.
You know, I was actually speaking to an analyst, and something that I brought up when I was speaking to our correspondent, Sharon Bryce-Peace, earlier on, to say that some suggest that this is a moment that Donald Trump will use to actually play to the supporters that he has. And of course, we know just by the sheer number of security presence in New York City, how much support he has, and it could turn either way. What do you think is going through his mind at the moment with these charges? I mean, we are also understanding that he may face up to 34 felony charges, that this is actually, not the end for Donald Trump.
Yes, so most definitely he is using this to his own advantage in raising funds, because 24 hours after it was announced that there's an indictment, the Donald Trump campaign for running office in 2024 actually made about 4 million. And these are all based on propaganda and the language that is used to actually praise this indictment. So what you find here is that they made about 7 million in 3 days, but these were all made by, or these funds were raised by saying that they should support this Trump campaign by buying T-shirts that actually are written "I stand with Trump" in exchange for $47 or more through the donations that they make to this campaign. But at the same time, it was written that it should be an indication for people that they stand with Trump, they won't surrender their votes, they won't back down into making America what it was when he was still president, saying that hope remains with those people to actually work against this indictment.
Ndzali, explain to us what we are currently seeing, outside of that arraignment, at least before, that arraignment. We are seeing a war of words, a war of exchange between Donald Trump, in fact, and his lawyers, just criticizing the way in which this whole matter was handled by the district attorney, Alvin Bragg. Of course, we know that the arraignment follows that grand jury indictment of last week brought by, Mr. Bragg. But Donald Trump saying that, Mr. Bragg should, in fact, indict himself, saying that this is nothing but a political, strategy, a witch hunt. What can we make of his utterances, particularly attacking the district attorney?
Now, most definitely, here what you find is the racial disputes that are being drawn to this matter, whereby since Mr. Bragg is black and he's been called a racist and an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that invokes one. So then what you find here is you find propaganda and language being very central, and populism of politics. So now, seeing that this case was actually recognized in 2016, but then the U.S. Attorney Office was actually asked to sit back and not investigate this indictment. But then seeing that it is coming back, now there is this turn of words in how people are viewing this whole thing, mostly directed by what Mr. Trump is saying and how he is presenting it to people. Therefore, you find that there are many racial allegations that are being drawn to this whole indictment, which actually works in his favor.
Now, you actually touched on, and that these charges actually, or these allegations stem from 2016. We obviously know that his former attorney, that's Trump's former attorney, having taken the fall back then for this very matter. And we now understand that the state will, in fact, have him as a witness, during this new process. So it does look like the scale is tipping ever so slowly against Donald Trump. And one wonders then what the position of the current administration is. I mean, we haven't heard from the current president of the United States. In fact, when he was asked by journalists, what his sentiments are, he said no comment.
Most definitely. This is a very delicate matter, seeing that Donald Trump himself is running for office. And then in such cases, you would find that opposing parties tend to take such opportunities to work against their opposition. But at the same time, I don't believe that they have any standing, because when you look at this, the president or Donald Trump can continue to campaign irrespective of these criminal charges, according to the U.S. law, which says that the only time when you are affected in campaigning, it's only when that criminal charge is relevant to the qualifications that you need in order for you to run for office. But herein, they deem this allegation or this indictment as irrelevant. Therefore, it is a very delicate matter for opposing parties to actually touch on, as the neutral stance or the no comment from the current U.S. president.
Now, I just want to touch on another matter, of course, that does touch a lot on the legal, side of things. But we have heard that Donald Trump will face many more charges, up to 34 felony charges. And one of them, of course, we understand, of course, from just the international reports, is that the U.S. Department of Justice is pursuing an obstruction of justice case. Now, of course, this follows, just some of the classified documents that were found in his Florida estate. Now, talk to us about that, what it means, particularly from an international safety perspective as it relates to the United States, because also of the role that he played at the time of these documents that were found, these highly classified documents.
So then what you're seeing here is, with all these charges that are actually mounting, there is an acute risk of having additional charges towards the former U.S. president, and him being the first former president in USA to actually be prosecuted of a criminal charge. But then in a legal spectrum, it might not mean much, but in a political one, it might actually, because when people vote, they wouldn't vote for a president that they believe is a liability, one that will be detracted by such criminal cases when they have to serve their time in office and perform their official duties as the president. So then it becomes a very difficult case, whereby it exposes so much vulnerability with the U.S. president. It actually ruins his chances of running for office in a national electorate. So it becomes hard. It actually mounts on the cases that are already existing, but at the same time, it deems him not so fit to be president, with him being a liability that's running, that has so many criminal charges.
But knowing Donald Trump, do you actually think that he will stop campaigning? As we wrap up this conversation, what is likely to happen over the next couple of days?
Oh, no, I don't think he will stop campaigning. Actually, he used this in his advantage, where he raised 7 million after the indictment was announced. So most definitely he will not stop campaigning. But other than that, there is no constitutional bar in the USA that says that you can't campaign while as you facing criminal charges as a president or a former president. Therefore, he won't stop campaigning. And it has been proven that he's using this to his own advantage to even raise more funds, but at the same time to have a stance of saying that he should run for office because of what's happening, as they're accusing Mr. Alvin of not prosecuting real crimes, but rather following up on what they call silly crimes, a witch hunt, as you said. So then he will not stop campaigning.
In fact,
since there are no legal impediments into campaigning, but at the same time, knowing him, he won't stop.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. In fact, especially if you look at what some people are saying, some activists are saying on social media, that the reason perhaps they will not, handcuff him or put him in jail after his arraignment, or even give him a mugshot, is because he might use that, for some merchandise for his campaigning. But Ndzali, thank you so much for your time. Let's leave it there for now for the afternoon. Ndzali Mathebula is a lecturer in the Department of International Relations from the University of Johannesburg, just weighing in on that Trump story.